Chelsea, thank you so much. Crimes against children can be hard for investigators and prosecutors looking for justice. Several agencies get involved. The investigators need special certifications and experience, and the courts treat them differently. A new partnership between Lee County and the First Circuit District Court Attorney is looking to make things a little easier for everybody. Jake Holcomb joins us live to explain the new Lee County Child Protection Task Force.
This new task force is a joint effort between the Lee County Sheriff and the District Attorney to try to streamline that process of seeking justice for kids. Lee County Sheriff Jim Johnson says prosecuting crimes against children is hard.
A lot of times when you go to court to prosecute things like this, a lot of times not necessarily the crime that was committed is being looked at, but it was the process to get there. And if there's a hiccup or there is a small fraction of problem in that process, the whole case goes out the door.
District Attorney Jason Herring agrees.
Those types of cases require specialized training in the investigations, the protocols that are out there, the rules that we have to follow regarding children when they are victims of a crime. Again, makes it specialized and, as I said before, extremely difficult.
With so much at stake, it's important to get it right. That's why the Lee County Board of Supervisors decided to approve the creation of a Lee County Child Protection Task Force. It would add specific detectives who do nothing but get to the bottom of child abuse cases.
It sounds on the surface like it would be something that would be beneficial as long as innocent people don't get wrapped up in the net.
Herring compared this task force to the creation of the North Mississippi Narcotics Unit, which he said has been very successful. The district attorney says that it could take months to set this task force up. It would need approval from the state attorney general as well. Live in Tupelo, Jake Holcomb, WTVA 9 News.